Good evening. I think Paul's going to lead
We have literally just
this
heard that Ange
emergency
Postecoglou has
podcast.
been sacked as manager of Spurs after winning a European glory. Colin,
Yeah.
give me your feelings.
Um, well, I don't know what to say. I only heard this within the last half hour. Why am I on then? Well, trying to probably make some sense of it. I think there are three schools of thought. One is that he is excellent and shouldn't have been sacked. Another one is that the league form wasn't good enough and the Europa League didn't rectify anything and they should go. And others like myself are probably a little bit confused about the whole thing, i.e., how it's happened, when it's happened, maybe why it's happened. Um, to try to unpick this, there are a few bits and pieces that probably are objectively true, objective truths. One is he won our first trophy as manager in 17 years and in 41 in terms of Europe. That was the 1984 UEFA Cup. We played over two legs, and the 2008 League Cup over Chelsea at Wembley. Keith Birkinshaw and Wande Ramos were the managers then. Birkinshaw ironically left after that match, or say ironically because it's like Postecoglou, and Ramos left not long after that, very early in the next season. So Spurs have form. Did the cup, the glory and the excitement, and we've already covered that. Did the cup rectify anything to do with league form? Some people are caught in the emotion of winning the cup, as was I. It's a wonderful achievement, a wonderful occasion, and Spurs fans unashamedly celebrate it and still will do. But boards have to look to the future, and the league form, I have used the term unacceptable over the season. I think, frankly, it has been. And in weighing it up and trying to give the board some credibility, they're probably worried about that. What they have said, part of their statement, is that they want to give the team every chance of success on several fronts. Probably means the league, the FA Cup, the League Cup, and the Champions League. And obviously, they don't think Ange is the man to do that, based primarily on the league form. So that's one thing. Why are some of us confused? Well, I suppose it's a combination of objectivity and emotion, taking the two. I've already said I've had both. The excitement of the win of the trophy and the disappointment of the league form. Haven't gone to many of those games. It was really disheartening to watch how we played and how we were unpicked by teams who shouldn't be coming to Tottenham Stadium and winning so easily. And Ange didn't seem to be able to.
I'll apologise. I'll just apologise if the signal's bad here and we're dipping in and out. It may be mine, it may be Colin's. I don't know. We'll proceed. We'll keep on trying and see how we get on with it. Do you think, Colin, as an individual, give me a straight answer. Do you think winning the European League Cup that he won, do you think he should have kept him in the job?
I don't think that winning that cup should have kept him in a job. Okay. I'm not saying he should have been sacked. I'm saying that it needed to be looked at in the big picture. And therefore, the timing's terrible, but it's happened before. I think on balance and objectively, it's very hard to defend the league form last season. And had not the three teams beneath us been so poor or relegated so early, we could have been in a real mess. So the board have decided
I phoned you when the news came through about 40 minutes ago, and I was still listening to the radio. I was working out in the garden, and there was a Spurs fan come on the radio, and he was irate, Colin. He was absolutely irate. He said, "I hope we get relegated now." He said, "Daniel Levy doesn't want to win." I don't know what he meant by that. He didn't explain it, but he said Daniel Levy doesn't want to win. He says he sacked Jose Mourinho before the cup final. It's as if he has some urge or desire not to win. These have just won a massive trophy. Surely keep the momentum going. Keep that taking over. Momentum's everything in sport. Keep it going.
Yeah, and you're talking about what you call a reasonable man, a reasonable person who would look at that. It's not. I'm not sure. I know what the guy's talking about. He's probably very emotionally, upset at them, and obviously, as we all are, I'm stunned in a way. But I know what he means. I don't think it's that Levy doesn't want to win. I think that at times he has proven to be unwilling to do what it needs to win, particularly on the investment side. Now, I think they won this trophy, and it's great and all that. For fans, it's a trophy. It's something to celebrate. But what does it mean for Levy? I don't think he's sacking Postecoglou in case we win anything else. I think he really wants to move forward, but just in his own weird way. But the real problem will not necessarily be the manager, the one just sacked, or the one to come in. It will be the support that the next manager gets from the board, and that will be most obviously in freedom to sign whomever that manager feels is required, and that will take money. And Spurs need to impress upon the next manager that that's what we need to do. And there's no shortcut to that.
Can I interrupt you? Can I just interrupt you there?
Yeah.
Is this not going to divide your fan base more? Your fan base were divided already on Levy in, Levy out. Surely this is going to drive a division down through the middle of your fan base like never before. Like Daniel Coffey, who's on with us next week, has said the right decision, in my opinion. Can't lose 22 games in the season, expect to stay in the role. But surely, I'm not sure I agree with Daniel. I did predict that he would go. Win or lose, I did say on the podcast that he would go. Now I'm saying to you that I think it's the wrong decision. I think keep the momentum going. They had a win, and I take Daniel's point. 22 games, and it's crazy to lose that many games. But who do you bring in now? Who comes in now to fix this?
Well, just on your point, I think, Paul, with respect, probably what you were doing is highlighting what I described there. In that, what you were saying was the league form was appalling, unacceptable. But we won the UEFA Europa League, so that makes everything okay. It doesn't, now, there is already a wedge in the Spurs fan, and I've tried to. There may be three now. There was pro Ange, anti Ange, and there may be three pro anti. I'm bloody confused, I think one thing most 90% of us at least are agreed on, that we're very frustrated with what the board have been doing over the last lot of years and how they've been doing it. And they really need to get this one right and to explain to us more than this statement what on earth they're playing at with our great club. They've been there long enough, I am very sorry about Ange going. Very nice fella appeared to be, for all that. For I know, very charismatic, very down to earth, and all of those things. But that's to forget about the 1-0 defeat at Bournemouth, the 2-2 home draw with Bournemouth, the 4-1 defeat against Brighton, the loss at home to Nottingham Forest, being beaten by Newcastle, humbled by Liverpool, beaten twice by Arsenal. All of these things can't be forgotten in the emotional aftermath of the Europa League win. And I think that they will have taken that into account. In fact, if anything, probably the win of the trophy made it more difficult for them because they had to let the excitement calm down a bit, to give them.
But would it not have been the right thing to do to sack him? Would the right thing not have been to sack him halfway through the season and bring in somebody else then? Like, it was a winning prayer to win the European trophy.
It could have been, but Ange led us on the record as saying that whenever they realised through injuries or otherwise, the league couldn't be won. Now, I can imagine that could have been realised on the 25th of August, but that they were going to focus on the cups. Now, the timing's interesting because I think by then either they were very quickly going out of both the League Cup and the FA Cup. So if it put us onto the Europa League. You know, there were some defeats there too. You know, away at in Turkey we lost. You know, a few draws that could quite easily have knocked us out of this thing. So it was all very precarious for me. I'm glad we've won the trophy, but I think if the board are to be believed, you're looking at the way forward. They're obviously not thinking Ange is the man to do it. Ryan Mason's already gone, so maybe a new broom sweeps clean, and they'll be hoping that whoever it is gets off to a good start, and this is all forgotten.
What's Postecoglou's lasting impact? How would you describe his tenure?
He'll always be remembered as the man who ended the trophy drought. Yeah, definitely, and he'll always be welcome in any pub with Tottenham fans in it. He will always be welcome. Have a pint of Foster's or Triple X, whatever it is. And I think that will be, the impact. And like I say, the man who ended the trophy drought and won as a European trophy. Yeah, and that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Or the man who nearly took us down. If you want to be.
If you want to be, but he didn't.
You want to be awkward like that.
He won your trophy. You have to look at. That's why I'm saying he should have been sacked halfway through the season. He didn't take you down. He won you the trophy. I always win the trophy in my second season. He won his trophy in the second season.
His point, sorry to say, is that whenever he decided that we're going to win the Europa League and league form didn't really matter, he implied that the board knew this and colluded in this. So that's why he wasn't sacked. Now, to what extent that's true, I have to believe what he was saying. So then, why would people who believe that story, that narrative, will then be saying, well, why sack him? Because he had only done what the board knew he was going to do. And if we accepted all the injuries and all of these things, next season was going to be better anyway. Now, they're not. It appears they haven't seen it that way. What they've seen is the cold statistics of Tottenham's position in the Premier League. And the performance stats, the number of defeats, and said that is just untenable, and that's what's happened.
Okay, 2 questions, and then we'll call it a day. We'll try and keep it around 20 minutes. First one is Thomas Frank is the name that's been linked most strongly with Comedy Spurs as your next manager. He has no European experience that I know of. Is he the right guy?
Oh, God knows. If it is Thomas Frank, I have a lot of admiration for what Thomas Frank has done. I always admire managers who take a smaller club and do something wonderful with them, which is over and above, what they've been used to. Brentford in the last 20 years had some very good managers. Frank seems to be, we're very lucky with him because I think he's been the best of those managers, and he's held his own. Brentford, you would say are a regular in the Premier League. Now, whether that can be maintained if he goes and some of the other key players go, that can be very difficult. I think he's an outstanding manager. He has no European experience, but then I don't think Pochettino had. He obviously managed in Spain and so on, and one was for him. I don't necessarily think that's a negative point. I think there might be people who are like, well, it's not a glossy, glittery, big name signing, His style of play, I've seen Brentford play us twice. I've been to 2 of the games. We won both of them. But Brentford played well and were in the lead, and did okay. If I was forced, I thought I quite like the idea of Areola. Simon Inzaghi,
why would they call him? I have to be blunt. Blunt. Why would he?
Why would who?
Areola. Why would he make the move?
Why would anyone make the move? Well, it's simple. It's the lure of a massive club and a sleeping giant. The opportunity to manage a club who are pulling in 62,500 every other week. Massive support across the world. Lots of potential, the glamour, etc. It is just a big, big draw, no matter what anyone says. Yeah. And the even bigger draw for a manager is how poorly they've performed. If you're going to Liverpool or City or whomever it might be, and Man United have found this fault trying to follow up on Ferguson. It's very, very difficult. Whereas if you go in when the expectations are lower, or sorry, the performance has been lower, but the expectations are therefore a wee bit lower. It's an easier gig. So I do think, no matter what, I do think they're a massive draw for a certain kind of manager. A manager who's used to buying everyone and winning everything may not see Tottenham as the right project, but someone in the range we have mentioned, Frank, Areola, those people, I think would, yeah.
Personally, I think that I got a text earlier on there. It says it seems to me that Daniel Levy likes to destroy managers' careers. I just don't see why anybody would go there whilst it's the current situation it is. And I'm not being rude. I'm not being nasty. No. The other thing is Christian Romero. I listened to him after the league. You won the European trophy. James Maddison, Brennan Johnson. Yeah. It all sounded good, and your dog agrees with me, and that's good. That's good.
My dog has an opinion there too. Yeah.
But tell me, where does this leave the players now? Where does this leave your players?
I really don't know. Talking again objectively or reality, they are where they are according to their contracts. So they've still got another year or two left in their contracts. They may well stay. A new manager coming in may or may not want them. They're in a state of limbo, frankly, unless there's 2 more years left of their contracts and they can stay and play through. Players, of course, will worry about their own selves first, and then everything else second. That's understandable. So, I'm not. Some may agitate to get away, but they were ones who probably would have
misworded
to get
the
away
question
anyway.
I probably misworded the question in that I think that they during their interviews showed great belief in him and said that he'd said and they believed in what he was trying to do. And now for that to be rubbed out, and here we go again and start over again pre-season.
You've just won a trophy. You're on a high. You're not going to turn around and say, "Well, I'm not sure about this manager and our tactics." At time and place, and I think it was perfectly appropriate what the players all said, and that everyone in Levy stayed out of the way to a large extent, and let the players and the manager and the management team really enjoy their moment. And they, unfortunately, I couldn't. I'd been over in London on the Wednesday for the match, had to come home on a Thursday. I had domestic duties, so I couldn't get back to London for the parade. Might have considered it, but it was great to watch on TV, to see the outpouring of emotion, and let the players and management team have their moment, as I've said. Now, that has died down. The dust has settled to some extent, and we've got to get down to business. Am I sorry to see Angelo? Yes, I am. Does that necessarily mean I wanted him to stay and think he was the future? I've always said I had issues, but those issues were lessened to me because of how we played in Europe. And we had the debate about how boring or exciting the final was. To me, it was a beautiful game because we won it and we controlled it, even though we didn't have the ball, and that's possible. But whatever they've seen or whatever they haven't seen, this decision has been made. There will be two, the talk channels and other podcasts will, of course, be trying to stoke this up as much as possible. And there are two things. One is what's been done and how it's been done, as I said at the start. Spurs have sacked a manager who won them a trophy. That's been done before. How it's been done, probably there was going to be no easy way to do this, given the immediate past, the last 16 days, the winning the trophy. But if they were going to do it, they were going to have to get on with it, because already other clubs are doing transfer business, But I'm stunned, I'm trying to do my best here.
I don't know.
I think it's important that I do, and I'm trying to be objective. But, I just 1 minute I was sitting looking through some documents. My brother contacted me about Ange being sacked. I contacted my mate Chris, who I go to the games with. He hadn't heard anything. Then you came on, and all of a sudden the whole thing was a flurry. Meanwhile, I was trying to have a shower, and clear and tidy up. So, I think, what is it they say about releasing bad news? And I think, Friday at tea time seems to be an interesting one. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I listened to one of the main soccer reporter for one of the channels, and he said that Ange was coming back today. and he basically said, wait and see. And sure enough, within within 8 hours of returning, he was told, I would love to have been a fly in the wall. If you had a message, if you had a message to send to Daniel Levy and the board, what would it be now? What would it be?
You've been here for over 20 years, and one trophy does not make it all right. Support the next manager, who will be your choice, like all the other ones have been, with what the fans want to see is real investment in the team for now, not 17, 18-year-olds, with plenty of those. As I've said all along, teams need 3 game-changing type players. And that's why I always ask people to name their 3 best players for their teams when they appear as guests. And we need them. And pay for them. And you'll see the return on your investment. And we will also then rally round. But until you act like you're trying to do it on the cheap, if you continue to do that, we will be annoyed. Support this manager with a couple of $100 million.
Yeah, well, we'll wait and see. For what it's worth, I like to go on the record in these things. Thomas Frank, I don't think is the man to take these forward. I really don't. And him leaving, after leaving, their 2 main men are going to be leaving the club as well. Their 2 main players.
Yeah. Can I ask, is this Thomas Frank thing? Does this have legs? Is this credible?
I just checked there rudely. I checked the odds, and he's leading the odds to take over. He is out and out favourite to take over as we speak. But sure, he might go, I'm not going to that quagmire of a situation where I think his position's secure at Brentford. I think he's in a very, he could go from hero to zero very quickly. If he went to Spurs, within 6 months, his job could be in jeopardy,
Yeah, but I think if Spurs, it's like Real Madrid, Spurs approach him, he will go, and he will use the line. He's taken Brentford as far as he can take them. No, that's a good stock line to use.
Yeah.
And that'll be that. And then we'll see what happens from there. I mean, you hope. We always look for, I always hope. When Pochettino came, he had done well with Southampton. He had done well enough with Espanyol. We weren't sure. In the first while, it wasn't going well at all. But he pulled it together. Maybe Frank will do it. Well, whoever it is, I obviously wish them well. I'm a Tottenham diehard. I want the team, the badge, all of those things are the most important. Names change, people change, but the supporters in the club don't. So whoever it is, they have my undying support. To Ange, I've already said it, but thank you.
Yeah. At least if you're playing bad football, you can watch Thomas Frank walking up and down the line tune like a freaking numpty. I can't look at the man. He absolutely drives me insane. Honestly, Colin, he actually drives me insane.
Well, he's not here yet.
And, I don't know who's going to come in. Anyway.
They might say, apparently, allegedly, they said to Pochettino, if you come to Spurs, we want you to hold your interviews in English. So they might say to Frank, if you come to Spurs, we want you to stop cheering, for God's sake, wash your hair. He always looks a bit.
We'll wait and see.
But anyway.
I didn't think this morning that I'd be chatting to you this afternoon on the pod. Anyway, we're over 20 minutes now. I said we'd come on for 20 minutes. Thanks for coming on very quickly. I know it put you in a position. I had a bit of
thanks to anybody who watches this. I'd like you to understand that
for those that stuck with us, our signal was shocking at the beginning. I don't know whether it was Colin's end, my end. Anyway, it fixed itself. Thanks for watching. Any last messages or anything to say, Colin? Tell me this? Are you happy? Are you unhappy? Give me a balance. Which are you? Are you?
Sometimes in life, you're not. You're sad about something you think probably has to have happened. And that's probably how I feel. So I'm sad about this having happened, but I think it probably has to have happened. All right.
Well, I guess the way to look at it is that he now can do the club no further harm. He can't damage you in the league next year. So his overall tenure has been a success, and it's on to the next man now to see what they can do. But I'm not sure how well you'll do in the league. Ask that question. How do you think you'll do in the league? Have you done any business in the closed season?
Not yet, really. I think we've confirmed Kevin Danzel. Apart from that, nothing. Well, five players are leaving or have left, but none of them we're going to damage the first team, so to speak.
Right.
So as things stand, we could be relegation candidates. We're looking at last season's form. People say the season before we finished fifth. Yeah, 45 years ago we finished. We need to look at what's happened and what's going to happen. And at the minute, I think we need to be strengthened in certain key areas. Sort out who's in for the long haul, and strengthen in areas where we need. I think some of the key players we have had, some I think won't be as good next year. They're getting older. Some plays a lot of football. I think he was exhausted, and exhaustion leads to injuries. So I think we will, and we'll need our identity back. We need an identity on the pitch. We need a leader. We need a Graham Roberts. We need somebody like that, not necessarily the most talented man in the world, but somebody who really means it. Whenever the younger players are losing a wee bit of shape or a wee bit of heart, perhaps, he would get them going. Nobody goes missing when that guy's on the pitch. Roy Keane, that's why he was invaluable.
Yeah.
So that's why I would want somebody like that. And can I think of anyone, not just at the moment, but I'll look into that.
Yeah. We'll chat about that. We'll be back on Tuesday night with the Chelsea special with Daniel Coffey. First appearance for Daniel. Derek Campbell, who contributes for Chelsea all the time. Colin and I will be back with you Tuesday evening, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
Good luck with your weekend. I hope it hasn't ruined your weekend.
Well, no, won't be plenty of reading to do anyway and catching up. Yeah. I think the interesting thing when Chelsea come on, they will go, what's the fuss? We sack managers all the time. We just keep churning it out,
The irony is they don't anymore.
Well, they've kept this man for a season. That's pretty good, But for us, it's different. And Spurs have gone through more managers than we probably should have. Here we go again. Let's see what happens. But for heaven's sake, it's never simple supporting Spurs. No. Never simple. So,
mate,
come on,
look,
Spurs.
We'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
I'll leave it at that. Thanks for coming on. I put you under pressure to come on and just do a quick one with us.
Well,
okay, guys. All right. We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you on Tuesday evening anyway. Enjoy your weekend, everybody, and stay safe. Thanks for joining us.